Hello, 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 folks. We are back here on Holding Space, Melinda Zappone, starting to do video because we know we have some visual people out there who prefer going over to YouTube. So we're trying to meet all types of learners here, and we're going to get right into it today, guys. We are talking about parts of you want to primal scream. I'm calling this therapy with a plot twist. This unproven therapeutic approach to releasing traumatic pain has been questioned as overpromising relief without studied proof. But still, who doesn't want to have a repressed scream once in a while come right on out? And who doesn't have one? But let's just start with you are here. Where is here? So I'm welcoming you back to Holding Space, or I'm inviting you here for the first time. We are starting to envision this space as the warehouse of material that makes up a core curriculum for those of us seeking to heal things. Some of us need a more organized way inward due to traveling a hard track trying to heal trauma, behaviors, relationships, and mental or physical health. Some of us are needing a place to start and have been overwhelmed by finding a cacophony of self-help voices that initially seemed right, good, and helpful, but now feel loud and confusing. Others are deep in a sense of brokenness and have not begun to look at that capacity to feel brokenness as an invitation yet. Lastly, you may be here due to a love or curiosity of what it takes to grow towards a deeper understanding of life's purpose. After being honored to be a chosen witness to thousands of lives attempting to look inward, I can honestly tell you, reader, listener, viewer, you are all of these things. We will talk about a key tool that is valuable to all the phases of healing in this post. It accesses all your parts, and that is how I know all of these reasons for inviting yourself here are you. The curriculum here is coined the toolbox approach, and the phases of healing inside this approach were developed from a hard, rewarding, devastating, and remarkably educational journey into myself and the fragmentation that I learned in session after session as a trauma healer was exactly for this purpose all along. This purpose is to use authentic brokenness expertise as a visionary part of me that can now see, after all the identifiable traumas, attachment wounds, relational breakdowns, grief, loss, mental health diagnoses, health problems, and problematic behaviors are identified. It is profoundly an internal stability that is lacking in all of us to stay the course of what inner work requires, a lifelong commitment to address ourselves with the right tools. These tools are the ones I seemed to have for 20 years as a trauma expert and licensed mental health counselor, but never learned how to empower myself and others to bend back for use as self-help tools outside therapy and as a true invitation to democratize mental health into every decision you make. These tools are: 1, for knowing our internal narrative without repression; 2, for reprocessing our suppressed and dissociated emotions and experiences; 3, for healing the relational fragmentation we have within ourselves and our many parts, such that our relating with others can also become more whole and less fragmented. So you are here, and you have been seeking, and that is actually something you've needed to give yourself lifelong, permanent access to. That is the thing to do with your life. Those that pass down the thing to do with your life were holding a lot of instability. This, regardless of what happened to them, what they carried as emotional baggage, the silent issues these people had, the mental and physical health problems, the psychological DNA, this is the truth. What those before us were on the outside structurally is not the truth of things. The tools that we have been passing down through the generations for some time now have gotten us pretty unstable. We stopped the free-flowing storytelling in pictures, languages, smells, tastes, fabrics, and rituals, and used repression, suppression, and dissociation. These kinds of tools for processing life experience create fragmented narratives. The fragmented narratives become our structure, our reality. Love and belonging becomes believing them, and we fear outcasting if we don't believe the collective narrative of those we are supposed to belong to, with, and for. That is not love, that is fear and control, and it creates instability inside all of us. So if we are on an inner work journey, we seek to become a way of being a living that democratizes our mental health for our lifetimes. We face this general truth: we have the wrong tools. That's the premise. You are here. Let's begin the post. So the primal part. I use something called internal family systems in therapy sessions and as a self-help tool to facilitate that truly curious internal conversation that often gets derailed if we vent, only basic share, ruminate, overthink, or dwell on our lives, situations, and ourselves. This tool helps us view the fragmented self as the source of our troubles. Our parts of self have gotten divided, and we have not had the tool of a core, conscious, curious self. We have only hoped the perfect parent, therapist, partner, sibling, friend, mentor, or teacher would start this conversation for us, but it's ours to create. Recently, I started creating a universal tweak to the parts I usually differentiate for people. Protector parts called managers and firefighters and exiles. I added a tweak. The protector parts have controlled and organized versions that plan and anticipate, and impulsive and urgent forms that act fast as if to a fire alarm, maybe. Exiled parts are vulnerable, wounded, ashamed, repressed, suppressed, dissociated, and kept hidden. The primal part, which is my tweak, is something I started to add due to its potential to allow me to use my background in somatic experiencing, a form of therapy that we can access emotional pain that is like beyond words in what we call the felt sense. This kind of pain is registered in the polyvagal nerve that forms what I call the column of view, the column of view right here, or the information highway of view. When we access pain lodged in the neurological data of the polyvagal system, this is data outside just the brain, but into the spinal cord and picked up by the central nervous system and more. There's a deeper release, a longer lasting one, and one that can be followed and repeated for increasing one's vagal tone and ability to regulate danger so we can orient back to safety. Many of us don't return to safe, secure, and ready to connect and normalize an activated or depleted polyvagal highway, relating through that instability repeatedly. The primal part is the raw, pre-verbal or non-verbal, instinctual aspect of our internal system that holds the most foundational emotional truths, often buried beneath layers of protectors and managers. It's the part that carries the scream we never got to scream, the grief we never got to grieve, the rage we were taught to suppress. Unlike other parts in IFS that may have more defined roles, like the inner critic or the caretaker, the primal part is elemental. It's the body's truth teller, is how I'm viewing it. In IFS, we often work with parts that have developed strategies to protect us from pain, but sometimes healing requires going deeper, beneath the strategies, beneath the stories, to the somatic imprint of the original wound. That's where the primal part lives, and when we can safely access it, witness it, and allow it to release, often through embodied practices like breath work or movement, even a silent scream, we open the door to true healing. So let me invite you to the scream session. Now, note here the use of the primal part was developed through numerous sessions, so this example is blended and therefore protects the confidentiality of any one specific patient as it's a combination example. So she started the therapy session telling me, a part of me wants to remember more, but I just can't. Using IFS, I responded, this part, wanting to remember more, but not being able to, what are the feelings there? She struggled to answer, so I asked her to close her eyes and remember the last time she tried to access her memories. I asked her to consider how it felt when she couldn't. When she opened her eyes and told me, I can feel it there, but I can't remember it. I feel small, insecure, and on the verge of tears because I can't figure out what happened. I also feel like I'm bad somehow. I'm going to sneeze. There we go. I prompted her to befriend this part, let it know it's not alone, it's safe, and that she wanted to help, not fix it, and only wanted to understand more. The part opened up to tell us in the session that it let something happen and it's protecting her from remembering so she doesn't feel ashamed. We explored how this part got its job in the first place. And it recalls a time when she thought, quote, just act like nothing happened. She struggled. It felt like that was maybe true. Maybe it was not real. She couldn't be sure or trust herself. Something said, so you should just forget. This part, we realized, was doing a good job, but also building distrust in her other parts of self, the ones having felt sense memories and those trying to remember. Over the years, as a consequence, she trusted the just act like nothing happened part over her other parts. If it stopped doing its job, there would be no trust whatsoever inside. This is what she referred to, or she feared, I guess, as a total breakdown in knowing who, what, or where she could go to for trust. We explored how she felt a deep sense of rigidity that was essential and felt bad to go against. She told me she had a glass of wine every night and sung once a week, but those were the only times she felt less of it. At this point, I took a total turn, remembering the skeptical primal scheme therapy method, but unlike that proven method, I did not think she needed to necessarily remember traumatic pain and release it, but release the frustrated core rigidity and its fragmented truth. This strong suggestion, like, forget it. You can't know what really happened. So trusting my gut that it was not the trauma that needed to be pushed out, I'm developing this primal part tool. And in this kind of example combination session, the held fear of dire consequences if she was not rigid and maybe like some small exposure that a total breakdown of self was only what she was carrying, not what would happen. We explored that. I asked her, what if you just clenched your fists and made your face into a screaming one for a little release from this? And shockingly, she smiled. And she told me she actually thought that would feel good. I prompted her to build like a fire in her gut, stoking the fire and preparing it with her stomach muscles. On the count of 3, we made screaming faces. And faint scream sounds did come out, and like hot breath and the desire to like repeat it several times. So we did. She looked at me and said, it wasn't my fault. I know it. She told me she thinks she gets it enough to know that an uncle made her very afraid when they were alone together, and she has never felt safe at family gatherings since then, and that was enough to validate her for now. She wondered much more curiously when it would all come back, somehow knowing it would be sooner rather than later, and that she would feel calmer when it did, and every time after that. She told me that something primal had lifted and that she had hope and a sense more small doses of this could occur if she stuck to it. I can't say it's a therapy technique to blend primal scream with IFS. I just know it worked, and I will be repeating it and using it in my own toolbox now. As you know by now, I created an approach to help healing in phases called the toolbox approach. I'll keep bringing it to you here as this kind of warehouse for the healing university that is developing. You can access the full introductory narrative healing phase and You Are Not Broken, break free from the fixing yourself mindset with the toolbox approach on the author website, which is included in the link, Goodreads included here, Amazon. I include all those links, including Atmosphere Press, which is my publisher. And definitely, if you enjoy it, if it's helpful to you, please leave a good review. I want to move on a little bit to explore IFS. I know you're probably curious by now. To use IFS on your own, there are 6 steps called the 6 to help us get to know those parts of ourselves that we call protectors. There are 2 types of protectors, managers and firefighters, that aim at protecting our system in different ways. We read, listen, view them above, but to go more in depth, managers as protectors control, prevent are proactive, perfectionistic, criticize, monitor, plan, function, prevent or avoid risk, caretake, and are productive. Firefighters as protectors act quickly, are impulsive, act forcefully, act to numb or soothe, aim for immediate relief, use distraction and escape from pain, can become addictive or pattern behaviors that are hard to change, but meant to be solutions early on. So in the Scream example above, living a rigid life and only having a glass of wine and one singing outlet a week was a manager protector part, kind of managing a rigid life. The process of the 6 Fs is in an image form in the article format on Holding Space, Melinda Zappone on Substack only. So I'll explain it, and you can go over to the Substack for the image if you're not there already. It can be worked through with yourself, modified from use in a therapy session, but also from my experience in 20 years of using it both ways. The 6 Fs process applies to any part that has a specific job or task to carry out in our system. For example, when I got an unexpected slew of charges in the mail, I immediately planned time to call the biller, check my card statements, and deposit some checks to cover the cost should it be legitimate. So I'm using a perfectionistic planning and controlling oriented manager part. I could use the 6 Fs process to go deeper if that seemed like warranted given the stress level or residual emotional hangover. If I detected that, I would. The 6 Fs stand for the following words: find, focus, flesh out, feel toward, befriend, fear. And you can look at the imagery on Substack. Again, these steps are excellent for teaching purposes because they give a clear and simple map to follow. With enough training and practice, they can be used on yourself to help you navigate your own system. But I do need to warn you that's quite challenging to do this on your own. You can use the comment section below. I'll be running Facing Your Instability courses this month for support. And ask me any questions you need. This should be a good guide. So I trust that you can train yourself. When it comes to using or seeing the 6 Fs process in action, for example, if you have come across a video by an IFS therapist or you go to an IFS training, you will come to realize they make it look or seem like it's always followed in the sequence, but you'll learn they are not prescriptive and your parts will guide you over time as you familiarize yourself with them. You might realize that it is not always possible to follow these steps in the exact sequence, and that's totally fine. As a beginning inner therapist, this article, any support you ask for or gather, it's your training. It complements the inner trust you are trying to build. Now, allow that to happen and let yourself be unstable with this. It's the good kind, the kind where learning something new is a little shaky, like riding a bike at first. Your body will start to remember the pattern, the rhythm, even before the knowing how to ride fully kicks in, and that's just like IFS. The 6 Fs can be divided into 3 stages. Stage 1, becoming aware of the part, and that's find, focus, flesh out. Stage 2, check if there's enough self energy to connect to the part. So that's when you really feel towards it rather than like a manager or firefighter comes out to not get towards it. And stage 3, connect to the part only if there's enough self energy available. So you're befriending and you're, kind of dealing with the fear. So a flashback to the example above, the scream session. In her stage 1, the individual found the part in the following statement: a part of me wants to remember, but I just can't. She felt it as making her small, insecure, and on the verge of tears, as well as bad somehow. We accessed her shame and how something forced her to act like nothing happened. This was her protector part, a manager that started to organize, plan, monitor, and prevent. The manager was critical and demanding she live a rigid life subconsciously, but a part of her wanted to remember. In stage 2, when she felt into the tug of war between the parts, she became willing to feel the conflict more. So that's feel forward. Stage 3, when the individual in the example smiled at my suggestion that She silent screamed with her fist clenched and activating her entire face and core of her being. This was befriending. She was also willing to face the fear that it would make everything fall apart and willing to expose herself to the idea of small release that might build over time. So that's the self energy and befriending and the fear, facing the fear. So really, there you go. I mentioned above, you are here, and expanded the concept of this by explaining how we all have been using the bad tools for processing our lives. That's just, you're here. Repression, suppression, and dissociation. When we process, we do so through rumination, dwelling, and overthinking, thinking we are analyzing rich and full data from the bad tools. You are here, I am here. And while healing has brought me further, it takes a lot of repetition. Repeating a reprocessing phase of healing with new tools becomes a new good habit. And hence, so there you go. Use this, repeat the inner conversation until you know your instability needs this more often than not, and you become that stable internal family system that you wish raised you. Heal on. Don't forget to check out You Are Not Broken and the author website. Thanks, everybody.